Welcome to my presentation on muscles and the muscular system, how they are structured, how they function, and how this will benefit a student in the gifted and talented group. Now, the muscular system is a complex system, which is vital in allowing our body to function efficiently and properly through everyday life and also in sports. For the gifted and talented group, this will be particularly important as they would need the best performance that they can provide during a competition, with their muscles helping greatly to accomplish this. Now, the muscular system has 6 main functions, with the first being movement. The majority of movement is done by the approximately 640 skeletal muscles in the body, which work in antagonistic pairs such as the bicep and tricep brachii located in the upper arm, creating levers by pulling the bone when contracting to create movement. All students from the gifted and talented group would need movement in the sports to perform in the first place, and particularly a flick serve in badminton, for example, as the wrist extensors and wrist flexors work together as the wrist flexors contract with the insertion of the wrist flexors on the anterior surface of the carpals, metacarpals and phalanges, pulling the wrist and the racket, creating flexion during the preparation phase, which is shown in the image here. The wrist flexors then relax as the wrist extensors contract, pulling the wrist back up to create extension during the execution phase as the student then hits the shuttlecock in the serve, which is shown here following it. The muscular system also helps with respiration, which helps provide a higher volume of gases exchange to take place and therefore providing more oxygen to the entire body. Muscles such as the intercostal muscles, with the internal intercostal muscles relaxing and the external intercostal muscles contracting during inspiration, cause the rib cage to be pulled upwards and allow for a greater lung volume. So more gases exchange could happen. During expiration, the internal intercostal muscles then contract while the external intercostal muscles relax, therefore pushing the ribcage back down and forcing that carbon dioxide in the lungs to be forced out of the body. This would be key for all sports over a long period of time, as their muscles would have to rely working aerobically. And particularly this would be for endurance events for an endurance runner in the gifted and talented group, for example the marathon, as their leg muscles like the gastrocnemius, tibialis anterior, quadricep group like the rectus femoris, for example, just one of them, all of them would be working constantly to keep running, and so they would desperately need oxygen to respire and provide energy for those muscles. The muscular system also helps with posture, and these muscles are found throughout the body. They are also skeletal muscles. For example, the erector spinae, which is found on each side of the vertebral column to straighten the back, and the transversus abdominals, found in this image here. And this is used to stabilize the lumbar part of the vertebral column and the pelvis. These postural muscles contain a high proportion of slow oxidative muscle fibers, as they are constantly in partial contraction, so need to be working for a long period of time. This would be important for a gymnast in the gifted and talented group, as during a floor routine, correct posture is needed to score the highest possible marks. Heat reduction is also done through the muscular system, with shivering, for example, when we're cold, and the body then is thermoregulating to try to increase body temperature. This is done by muscles rapidly contracting in bursts to increase body temperature, and this would be important in keeping us healthy so we can live healthy lives. And for students in the gifted and talented group, if they're not healthy, then they wouldn't be able to perform to their maximum ability, and especially during football, for example, winter sports. Well, not winter sports, during the winter, it's very, very cold outside, so their body temperature would be very low. So, like during the game and also warming up, the body would shiver to try to increase body temperature, and so that they can perform to their best abilities. Next, the muscular system helps with the constriction of blood vessels, and this is done by smooth muscle tissue found in the blood vessel walls, like the arteries, arterioles, veins, and venules. When the body temperature is low, so the body is cold, they vasoconstrict to maintain body temperature, and when they're hot, they vasodilate, so the blood can flow closer to the skin, so there's a less distance for the heat to diffuse so the body can cool down. It's also used in sport, so blood is distributed to the areas of the body that need it more or at higher demand. So going back to an endurance runner, they are relying greatly on their lower body with their legs, and so the blood vessels in their legs would vasodilate to increase the blood flow to their legs, so more oxygen can be given to the legs muscles, so they can produce more energy, so they can work for a longer period of time. Whereas in the upper body, they aren't really using their head or arms, so don't require as much oxygen to get there, as they aren't being worked as hard. The final function the muscular system contributes to is heart contraction, and this is done via cardiac muscle tissue, and they are found in the myocardium of the heart, and they help contract the heart and push in the blood through the heart and to the rest of the body or to the lungs. With the left ventricle obviously being the thickest, and so have the most muscle, as they need to force the blood to the whole body, as the left ventricle goes to the aorta and then to the rest of the body with that oxygenated blood. Okay. Now, muscles have 4 characteristics that are shared between all of them. The first is excitability, and this means that they can be stimulated by neuromuscular impulses via motor neurons, and this is consciously done from the brain, and that's sent down the central nervous system, which involves the brain and the spinal cord, and then from that then goes to the motor neuron, which then excites or stimulates the muscle, causing them to contract, and then once that impulse has gone, causes them to relax again. So this, for skeletal muscles, helps them with movement. For smooth muscles. This helps them with vasodilation and vasoconstriction of blood vessels. And for cardiac muscle, this helps them to contract and relax the heart. The next characteristic of muscles is extensibility, and this means that muscles can be stretched further than usual, and so this then reduces the chance of injury if someone hyperextends during a sporting movement. This would be crucial for a pitcher in baseball in the gifted and talented group, as they are pitching that ball with such a force that it puts strain on that shoulder, so to reduce the chance of injury on that deltoid or rotator cuff, for example. The muscles have extensibility, so they can be stretched in that sudden movement and not become injured. The next one is contractility, and this means just that muscles are contractile organs, and each type of muscles use this for different reasons to benefit the body. So the smooth muscles vasoconstrict and vasodilate to control blood flow around the body. The skeletal muscles provide movement, as muscles contract and relax, pulling bones closer to create that movement. And cardiac muscles causes heart contractions, which obviously supply the body with oxygenated blood, and the deoxygenated blood can then be transported to the lungs to become oxygenated via gaseous exchange. And the final characteristics of muscle is elasticity, and this is just how muscles can be stretched. We know muscles can be stretched because of extensibility, and elasticity is referring to that muscle like an elastic band, as if it's stretched and released, that comes back at a greater force. So for example, for a skeletal muscle, if it's stretched further, hyperextended further than what it usually is, and then suddenly moved back in that explosive movement, this would create a greater force due to elasticity. This also means that if overstretched, it wouldn't return. So that is how effectively you would pull a muscle, where you overstretch that, and just like an elastic band would become overstretched and remain overstretched. This will end the first video of this presentation, and the next video we will look at comparing the types of muscle tissue.